Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. How do I even begin this? There's so much news constantly happening within the cryptocurrency space that I think it's incredibly easy to overlook anything and everything. It's a constant wave of information that's flowing in our direction. A lot of what we tend to pay attention to, or what I think a lot of people have been paying attention to over the course of the last few years. You should know 21 million Bitcoin. We have roughly around 19 million Bitcoin mined. These numbers will make sense, I promise you, because they're far more significant than I had even previously thought. Around 19 million mined. We've been going over the accumulation levels from BlackRock. I told you before in many other videos. I understand, and I also say this myself. I know that there are other companies who are accumulating, but the idea of one company accumulating 1 million Bitcoin by the time we get to August or September is, of course, more significant than any of us can actually even imagine. I was looking around just randomly to see what was going on within the cryptocurrency space, and someone posted a video. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks because I didn't know this date. I didn't know this time, and I didn't know when we were actually going to hit that significant number. So when you talk about that there are, it's not hundreds, it's not thousands, it's now millions of Bitcoin that are lost. We don't know where exactly they are. They're in old wallets that people have lost their passwords. Some of them are in landfills. That's also a real story that continues to pop up as well. We talk about the actual scarcity of Bitcoin quite often. And I had a mini rant about 2 or 3 videos ago where I was like, I hope everyone has been paying attention. And I mean, just from the most logical point of view, simply because we've been going over this every single day for the last couple of years, literally every single day, talking about the movements in the market and how many Bitcoin are being taken off the market and being sold to institutions, and they're not letting it go. And then also the accumulation by all the ETF holders and all the new ETFs who are out there and all the banks who are trying to get Bitcoin from the people who are mining the actual coin themselves. Michael Saylor was at a recent event. Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, they own, I think it's over 200 something thousand or other Bitcoin. They hold more than 1% of all the Bitcoin that could ever be, that will never be, as there are millions missing. So, we will never actually get to a circulating 21 million because these coins will never re-enter circulation. He was at a recent event and he was talking about that something really insane happened. We've been paying attention more so to the idea of the ETFs getting launched and not to the actual event that currently took place, which we are currently in. He calls it the actual Bitcoin gold rush. And he says, we are currently running a race with institutions to gather and accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible until we can't anymore. So there's a couple of things. We know that the halving is going to cut Bitcoin's created supply in half. I think we get to 1.5 Bitcoin that's created every single block. The next halving that crushes it down to 1.7, and then eventually, I think the one in 2032. I think it's only literally, like, it's not even a full Bitcoin. It's just Satoshis that are coming out of the machine at that point, which is then the point where we've heard all these anywhere from $1 to $5 million Bitcoin because there's going to be nothing left. He says what people aren't paying attention to is that this isn't the normal level of accumulation, which we've also gone over before. This is the reason why you get these conversations with people talking about, well, why are prices rising so high right now? It's because of the massive amount that these companies know. He said, what do these companies know? That we're in a gold rush. And we're in a gold rush because not because they like the idea of going outside with like picks and digging through the dirt and finding as much gold as possible. We're on like an actual time limit. And that's the thing that kind of stuck in my head, because of course we are. Because for those of you who also don't know, and some of you should know this number, it is going to take until the year 2140. That's not a fake number. To the year 2140 to mine the last Bitcoin. He said, do you know what's the exact date? He said, do you know what the date November 2035 means? It was a whole thing. There's a whole audience listening to him, and everyone was like, no, Bitcoin? He said on November 2035, 99% of all Bitcoin will have been mined at that point. He said we are currently in a 10-year gold rush against institutions who are all running for the exact same thing, to gather as much Bitcoin as they possibly can before we get to the 2036 halving. When you get to November 2035, 99% of all Bitcoin has been mined. It will then take an additional 105 years to mine the last 1% of Bitcoin. He said, of course, you're getting all these crazy numbers. Of course, you're seeing the supply crunch right now. Of course, you're seeing all these institutions completely losing their mind. I know it's very difficult. I know I'm one of the more maybe quirky or weird cryptocurrency YouTubers out there. Believe me, I know how I am as a person. I had somebody see me. I told this story years ago. I had somebody actually see me in the street and they recognized me. They were like, "Hey, what's up?" But they were like, you're just like your YouTube channel." And I was like, "Yeah, like this is just who I am." So I know a lot of times if something really excites me, I tend to get loud and say a lot of crazy things on videos, but I really want people to understand exactly what's happening, because, and I don't care for explicitly, I don't care for buzzwords like generational wealth, generational growth, and all these other kinds of things. But this is exactly what's taking place. We're witnessing something very odd right now that I didn't personally think we'd ever see in my lifetime. The shift of money is happening very fast, and I think the majority of the people who have figured out what's going on are the people who are very wealthy. So this is why I applaud sometimes when we're going over stuff together, and I'm like, if you're here, like, you're very lucky, like you're not really understanding it, because by the time we do get to $1 million Bitcoin, that's not what normal people can afford. We're currently living in a system where the rich have everything, but we're witnessing in front of us the shift of what money looks like from those people who are extremely wealthy to people who have crypto. You understand what I'm saying? We're in this really weird situation in history where we are a part of this game that we're normally not a part of. Have you ever watched documentaries about the 1890s, 1900s, 1910s, 20s, and 30s? I know somebody was like, no. As far as how wealth was created and who held the wealth, it was very, very, literally like 7 to 8 people in the United States had control over all these industries. They controlled where the money went. They controlled who was hired. They controlled where that money went after they passed on. And it was a very specific. The internet gave advent to the idea that people could make money in another way that was more, I don't want to say the word decentralized or democratized, but you understand, like the roots began to grow. When we see this level of institutional interest in anything, it happened once we passed by the $1 trillion mark. The idea of a gold rush almost sounds fun and old-timey, but it makes complete sense. And as I've stated before, part of my issue with a lot of what's been going on over the course of just this year is the level of accumulation that we're seeing just amongst the wealthy. So I don't know your individual case. I don't know if you and your friend have a couple Bitcoin and you do party every single. I don't know what's going on with you. If we are in this gold rush, if we're in this situation where Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million+, these analysts within the space, the craziest numbers that we've heard as of recent is that by 2029, we're going to have a $5 to $10 million Bitcoin. And people are estimating that by the time we get to this situation in November 2035, that Bitcoin could be 20, 30, 40 million, just based off of simple supply and demand. Like, it's nothing really more complicated than that. It's just that the current levels of interest that we're seeing, if it remains the same, we're going to hit those numbers. But the problem is that we're not going to continue seeing the same level of interest. It's going to like 40 to 50x because Bitcoin becomes more popular to people only when it's really high in value. 99.9% of you would not be here if Bitcoin last month was $1 and it was currently now $1.25. You're here because you see that the price is high. You realize that it's near unobtainable. And this is only going to continue for a number of other people as well. You're going to live in a world where people brag to you about that they have Satoshis because they're going to think it's like, hot bananas. I have something that tons of other people do not. And you're lucky because you're here before the masses. You are literally here before the masses have to get in because things begin to be priced in Bitcoin. It didn't even occur to me in my mind because we had never heard this date before. No one has ever said when all 99% of the Bitcoin would actually be mined. It's never been November 2035 I make videos every day. No one has ever said that date. That means that well before then, all the Bitcoin has dried up. If all that's coming out of the machine in the next couple of halvings is just Satoshis, and we have people panicking now figuring out how to buy any, it's a very weird time to not only be on this planet, to see what's happening in the news, but to see this cosmic shift that's literally happening before us. Not to be cheesy, but, pat yourself on the back for being here, for having come this far, for having accumulated. I don't care for the term diamond hands, but if you've held on for this long, there's so much more that's going to be coming your way in the form of making money. I'm trying not to sound cheesy, but you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, it gets even crazier because the public, from what I've seen, I think people have a general knowledge of what Bitcoin is, what it does, not how many that there are, that there should be, how to mine it, or even the fact that millions of coins are lost and gone. This is what I told you before. A lot of times when we hear, for those of you who weren't here for the Tether video, Tether, the company who makes the coin Tether, recently announced that they just bought another 8,888 Bitcoin. And I said the problem is that to the average person, even people within crypto, when you say that number, it sounds like they just bought $8,888 worth of Bitcoin. You're really not understanding what it means for 9,000 Bitcoin to be gone and off the table. And I think Tether owns around 50,000 Bitcoin themselves already. So, yeah, I will say, as I say many other times, I will never tell you what to do with your money, ever. It's your money. You earned it your way. But I would ask that you have a look at your portfolio and try and decide if now is the right time for you to maybe add some or some more Bitcoin to it. If we get to during this bull run, if we get to $500,000 Bitcoin and Bitcoin is worth more than a house, a home, than property, that means by the time we get to 2029, we're going to have a several $1 million Bitcoin. And at this point, it seems completely believable. And this is last point. Remember, I was telling you, this is from maybe 2018, 2019, one of the original Plan B, what do you call it? Plan B Bitcoin price charts. And somebody was asking him why his chart ended at 2032. And he said something along the lines of because the numbers sound a bit crazy after that. He's like, when I tell people, they kind of look at me like a bit weird. And it's like, okay, so you can't really say those numbers. But he has like a $50 million Bitcoin at that point, just based off of stock to flow, which Michael Saylor also says explodes in the year 2035. He said it no longer matters because Bitcoin is the only thing that matters. It's really, so for those of you who want to see it and also read about it, there's the article in the description below and also the video in the description below as well. And he basically says that the idea of stock to flow no longer matters because it's measuring Bitcoin compared to other assets and how much is coming out of Bitcoin based off demand, yada, yada. He's like, Bitcoin is the demand at that point. There's nothing else but Bitcoin that's being valued. And then he says we still have another 105 years afterwards of it. So this is It sounds crazy. I can't say that. I can't say the term $1 billion per Bitcoin because it sounds completely insane. Based off of supply and demand, it makes sense. There was a thing that someone else said a number of years ago. They said Bitcoin is either going to zero or it's going to a million. There is no in between. Bitcoin either completely fails or little by little, every single person on the planet gets into it. We're expected to have over 1 billion people in the market in the next couple of years, and that already leads us to a 6-7 figure Bitcoin. And that's before we get to every person on the planet, and Bitcoin is valued in everything. Everywhere you go, it's priced in Satoshis. Crazy. I know. I saw it online. I watched the video and I was like, we're in some kind of a crazy shift that I think, of course, will be spoken about for generations and generations and generations. Like, this is going to be the moment where everyone was like, why didn't my grandfather buy some? Why didn't my family member get some? Why aren't we as rich as the people who live on that island over there who are having, I don't know. That kind of thing always enters my head. Anyway, yeah. November 2035 is the date. 99% of all Bitcoin will have been mined. And even crazier, he says that the gold rush lasts for 10 years. And after 2035, we start the growth phase where Bitcoin just infinitely grows forever. Right. I know. Okay. I do hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.